Hello everyone and welcome to episode 299 of the Mark and Me podcast. As always, I'm your host Mark. Now, today's episode for me is unbelievable. A guest that I've always dreamed of having on. If you had found me when I was 15 in my Ash t-shirt at secondary school, playing on stage with my band at the time, Girl from Mars, and actually said in about 26 years time you will be doing an interview on a podcast of your own with Tim Wheeler from Ash, I would truly have lost my shit. Not just because at that point I wouldn't know what a podcast was and all this technology wasn't around, but genuinely this band changed my life. I ask many people on this podcast about an album that people grew up with, and this is one of mine. 1977 is one of my favourite debut albums of all time. For me, it's a true masterpiece, and Ash have been a band that changed my life for the better. I was obsessed with them when I grew up. I thought all their albums have been unbelievable, and as a songwriter, I think Tim is one of the best we have in this country. Nuclear Sounds, Meltdown, Free All Angels, all these albums give me such nostalgia and pinpoints of my life that I can go back to the moment I hear one of the songs off these incredible albums. And to know they're back with a brand new album called Race the Night is a dream come true. I've been lucky enough to hear this album for the last few weeks. I was sent an advance copy before this interview with Tim, and I can safely say the album is unbelievable. Go and check it out after today's interview and then let me know what you think, because it is so good. And in true typical Mark and Me fashion, just before I get to the interview with Tim Wheeler from Ash, let's touch base and talk about my last episode. It was a big one. The numbers were high. It got so many downloads. It was Sadie Frost, an amazing actress, an amazing guest, and someone that I've seen so many people tweeting and Facebook commenting saying they want her back for more. And let's just hope in the near future we can make that happen. But today it's all about Ash. Tim Wheeler. My God, I absolutely love saying this out loud because it really is a dream come true. And just before I hit that play button, let's give a quick shout out to the sponsor of the podcast, Richer Sounds. If you're in the market for a brand new TV or home cinema surround sound system, check out richersounds.com. Right, I don't want to wait any longer, so here it is. Here's me and Tim from the amazing band Ash talking all things music. So Tim, thanks for joining me today on the Mark and Me podcast.
Oh, it's wonderful to be here. Thank you.
Tim, what I love to do with all bands that come on the podcast, and actually all guests, is take it right back to the very start. So talk to me when you were a kid. What were those first albums that remember maybe you used your pocket money or they were handed down to you that you remember listening to as a kid that made you fall in love with music?
Well, my big brother was he left our home to go to university. Like he was 16 years older than me, so I'm trying to remember. I think maybe it was like eight or something like that. But he had like his old beaten up cassette deck and a cassette of Live and Dangerous by Thin Lizzy.
Oh, nice.
So that was a really cool one. And he also had Wings, Venus and Mars, which is like, you know, maybe not the best known Paul McCartney record, but it was still a good Paul McCartney place to start. So good for the tunes. And then we had like a turntable at home as well. We had this cool Beatles album, which was Oldies but Goldies. I think it had this really cool kind of psychedelic, but like roaring 20s kind of cover artwork to it, which was, you know, and it was all like sort of early Beatles bangers, you know, up to maybe 1966 or something. So all that like up tempo stuff. So I think that might be where I sort of fell in love with really, really melodic and energetic kind of music. All that stuff like I Want to Hold Your Hand and things like that. So yeah, Thin Lizzy was there for the rock, and then I started getting into quite a lot of kind of metal stuff, like Iron Maiden when I was like probably 10, and Guns N' Roses, things like that. That was that was really big in the late 80s. So
I was the
and
same.
then
So yeah,
yeah,
I was born in '82, and I remember having Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 on cassette,
yeah,
and I
yeah,
was just blown away. I couldn't believe how great they were, and I didn't have Appetite for Destruction at that point. I think I just went to Woolworths and bought those two because they were the band to be, and I didn't know that,
totally,
there's all
yeah,
these bands out there, but they
yeah,
blew my mind. I couldn't believe how great they were.
yeah. I'm totally with you. Yeah, I was really into all that, and Megadeth, Metallica, yeah, Guns N' Roses. Then there's like some cool UK stuff as well, like the Almighty and Choir Boys, things like that. But then Nirvana came along, and that really set us on the road on a quite a different path. And that's when I discovered all the Seattle kind of bands and Boston bands like Pixies and Lemonheads, Dinosaur Jr. Yeah, and I was lucky enough to see Nirvana play in '92 in Belfast as well.
Oh wow. So I
Yeah.
had a ticket. I
Oh
think it was
no.
for, I can't remember the exact date because I was only a kid.
Yeah.
I was like 14, 15, but my parents were happy for me to go to gigs at that point with
Yeah.
like an uncle or someone. And I had a ticket to see Nirvana. I think it might be Wolverhampton or Birmingham. And
Yeah.
it was just while they were in Europe, and then the announcement happened that he had died, and it was just
Yeah.
the
Oh,
worst.
yeah, it was devastating. Yeah, we were doing some of our first ever UK shows that night. I think we were playing in Joiners Arms in Southampton. It was on our Easter break, and yeah, we also our PR agency at the time was Bad Moon, and they were Nirvana's press agency. So we had some potential links to Nirvana. Like we sort of thought, oh, maybe we'll get to play with them and things like that. But we were round some good friends of Kurt's, at the time, and it was weird. Like we played in London the next night at the Marquee, and just it was such a sad vibe. On the other mad thing that happened was our best friend Mark had his bedroom was pretty much a Nirvana shrine, but his mum had chosen that trip while we were away to redecorate his bedroom. So she had taken down all his like Nirvana posters.
Spooky timing.
Yeah, and he just got home. He was like double bummed.
Did she know? Is that
No,
too
no,
spooky? That's
yeah,
crazy.
it was really bad. Yeah, unfortunate. I think though also I think whenever we saw Nirvana, we got their signatures, and I think Mark had got his jeans signed, and his we'd gone to school the next day, and Mark came back from school, and his mom had put his jeans in the wash.
Oh my Lord.
Yeah, like Mark's mom is awesome, but yeah, there was a few unfortunate moments.
It all changed for me. We just discussed then about going to gigs, but can you remember one of your first ever gigs? Mine, and I say it on every podcast, was Green Day. So I was quite lucky. I saw them on their
Yeah,
Dookie tour, and it was unbelievable.
yeah,
But and I still love that band to today, and I think they're just unbelievable. But can you
yeah.
remember that? Even if it's embarrassing, can you remember your first gig you went to where you
Oh
kind of
yeah,
saw it
yeah.
in the
It was
flesh?
Bon Jovi, and I think it was like 6th of January 1990, perhaps. I think it was on the New Jersey tour. Maybe it was 89 or 90. And it was 2 days after my birthday. I think that's how I
I
remember
was
the
going to say,
date.
how do you know these dates so
Yeah,
well?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it was just a couple of days after my birthday. I was kind of annoyed as well because I think I was 13, but my younger brother, who was 11, got to come to the show, and I'd been waiting so long to come to gigs, but kind of as soon as I passed a certain threshold, he was able to come to everything. I wish I'd been able to go to shows when I was 11, but yeah,
Was it
I
annoying as
remember.
well? Were you like, oh
Yeah,
God, you're not tagging along and making me uncool?
it was a bit like that, but like I do remember because he was so small and cute that someone like some rocker picked him up on their shoulders, and John Bon Jovi pointed to him in the middle of a song,
Oh, that's awesome.
which was cool. But the other big thing I remember of that show was the striking smell of like leather, sweat, and hairspray walking into the King's Hall in Belfast. It was, and I suppose adrenaline must have been like it was quite an exciting gig, and it's sort of like, oh, that was kind of uncool for a while. But in the end, it was, I was 13. It was a cool experience.
God, you had some amazing foundations when you think you've grown up listening to bands like the Beatles, and then you started off with John Bon Jovi. Like that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, yeah,
Some people have
yeah,
on a very, very honest and admitted their first gig was like S Club 7, and you're like, oh, I did not expect
yeah.
that, and now they're in metal bands.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think I was lucky. Maybe I was lucky because not many people were touring Belfast during in the 80s. You know, it was not a safe the safest place to come on a tour itinerary, or people, you know, people thought they weren't, it wasn't, but kind of a lot of rock bands did, you know. I think they started coming in the 80s, and so yeah, I think we got quite a lot of big shows. You know,
So
ACDC would come.
when was it the kind of point in your life when you thought I want to be in a band? 'Cause obviously you started Ash quite young.
Yeah,
Was that one of your first major bands, or did you do the thing at school where you were doing the whole battle of the bands and, you know, doing cover bands, or were you kind of straight in at the deep end with Ash?
no, myself and Mark had been in band since we were 11 or 12. I think we both got guitars for Christmas. Said we're gonna, you know, we were both like music nuts completely. We were also like big American football fans as well. We sort of, I think we were, Mark had big dreams about trying to set up like a sort of American football league or something. And then when we realized how tough that would be, then we were like, okay, let's do music, and
I
we
love that
started
the
a band.
music is a backup than him becoming like the Rock and doing his own draft. That's incredible.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was quite mad, and tons of our mates all got guitars at the same time, and we used to get together like 7 guitarists in a room trying to be in a band. And then sort of we realized that it was me and Mark were the main ones who just stuck at it every week after week, and we started a metal band, but we weren't really good enough to play metal, so we started writing our own songs right from the beginning. And yeah, they're pretty bad, but we went through a few years of some pretty embarrassing gigs, and then we met Rick, and that sort of coincided with sort of getting into Nirvana and a lot more of a punk rock kind of thing, and we were like, that suited our level of playing a lot better, and so we went, kind of changed direction. And then I think that's also when my songwriting started to click a bit, and so yeah, we put in a few years of trying quite hard, but and then Ash has just started to get kind of good quite early on, so that was good.
With Ash and obviously having the original lineup that you still have now, which is amazing, you and Mark having this bond from such a young age. I know it sounds ridiculous because it's hard in like to take yourself back to that moment, but when you formed Ash, did you guys have any expectations or any kind of goals? I know you just saying Mark wanted to be like the Rock and have his own NFL
Yeah,
thing, but
yeah.
as a band, did you ever like if you were so influenced by Nirvana, I suppose you probably didn't want to do the big sellout thing and be on top of the pops and stuff. Were you kind of wanting to play certain venues or festivals, or were you just in it just to have fun?
Yeah, no, I think we were quite ambitious. So, you know, we really wanted to, yeah, I guess we've been into all those rock bands, and, you know, we saw the lifestyle, and yeah, I guess it seemed a lot more exciting than staying, you know, a lifetime in Northern Ireland. You know, I think we sort of there was quite a big escapism thing about the attraction of all that rock music, especially a lot of the American stuff we were into. And although Nirvana were, you know, had these big anti sort of corporate ethics, they were still looked like they were living the dream. You know, they were like living, doing music, and
Well, they're still on the main stage at
yeah,
Reading, aren't they? And selling
yeah,
out every good venue in the UK. So it couldn't have been
yeah.
that against it.
They were on Geffen Records. They were like all over MTV. You know, they were,
Top of the Pops, that iconic
yeah, Top of the
performance.
Pops.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know, I remember around I did like this French exchange with this kid in France, and I remember like just going everywhere. That's, you know, I go somewhere in France and you just, Nirvana was blasting out of everywhere. You know, you walk by an apartment door, you hear Nevermind playing. You know, it's just okay. It was like that. This music is connecting worldwide. I don't know. There was ambitions to do that kind of thing, replicate that. So yeah, I don't know. We saw this kind of dream of being a musician, and that's what we were going for quite hard, quite early on. And yeah, but we were like, how the hell are we going to do this in Northern Ireland in this, you know, rural backwater that not many people come to, and is yeah, has a lot of problems as well.
But with the launch of 1977, which is in 1996, which just still blows my mind, I was thinking just before this interview today, I was at secondary school at the age of 15 and we had an assembly. And I remember my band played at school and we
No
opened our
way.
set. We opened our set with Girl from Mars, which is fucking
Wow.
ace. And if I can
Yeah.
find the video, I will send it you because I've got
Oh, I'd love to
sprayed
see.
green hair. No one had hair
Yeah.
dye then. You just got it in a can. And
Yeah.
we then went into When I Come Around by Green Day, and then I think we did Nirvana Drain You,
Oh,
but we started with Ash,
yeah.
and it was fucking ace. And everyone at school was just honestly, the biggest Ash fans. Everyone had the T-shirt with the white iconic, like the baseball
Yeah, the
style with the
scroll.
black
Yeah. Oh
rings and the
yeah.
thing.
The ringers. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
honestly, you were the band, and I was thinking today, surely that can't be that long ago, and I was like, oh my God, that
Yeah.
was probably like 96, 97, which is just blowing my mind.
That's wild. Yeah, there's definitely a certain generation of teenager, like just we were a teenage band. We were like, I guess we were just turned 19 when 1977 came out, and we were, I think we really connected with teenagers. So yeah, there's certain people, if you were a teenager in 95, 96, you probably were a big Ash fan. That's one thing in Dairy Girls. I was like, I thought Dairy Girls, they should have had an Ash poster on the wall or
Oh,
something.
that's all
Because
it needed.
if you're a Northern Irish teenager and, at that time, you probably were a big fan. But they did use a Life Less Ordinary in the last season.
Yes.
But yeah, I don't know, I thought we deserved a little
Next time,
more.
put me in a hat or a T-shirt or.
Yeah, something, yeah.
But with that album, I know obviously everyone, you said you were ambitious, but surely you didn't expect it to blow up like it did. Like those singles were absolutely huge. You suddenly got, your name was everywhere. The opening track with that Star Wars sample just instantly hits you. And everything about it, the sound production, everything is just timeless. It is an absolute classic. And I think a debut leaves your mark on the industry. You couldn't be prouder to look back and say that's our debut.
Oh yeah, it was a great moment. Like it kind of all just came together. I mean, we rode a bit of a wave as well of like guitar music was hitting the charts big time. So yeah, I think you're right. We wouldn't have expected it, and there was a couple of moments early on where we thought our chance had gone. We were chatting to, I think it was a label called Diva Records, who'd put out Daisy Chainsaw, Love Your Money, and they were sort of interested in us when we were 16 or something. I think we're 16. But then that kind of fizzled out, the interest from them, and then we thought, I think we thought that was our chance gone, and but then luckily we got these links through Bad Moon to a manager in London, and we kind of started coming to London through him, and yeah, it just took off at kind of a crazy pace, when we were the last year of school, we were signing deals with Reprise Records, which is part of Warner Brothers in the States, and all sorts of, we were getting flown to LA and on our school breaks, and I don't know,
That's
it sort of just
insane,
kept
isn't it? It's so
it kept building
crazy.
up, yeah. And we had actually had Girl from Mars written from, yeah, like 1993. I think we wrote that, or I wrote it, and it was kind of in the set, but our manager was like, hang on, don't release it. We're not going to release this until you leave school, because this
Hold
is
it back. Like
potential
this
hit.
is
Yeah.
gold. Yeah.
Yeah, like you won't be able to make it. You won't be able to promote it if you're at school. Like this can't be the hit that it deserves to be. So I thought that was really smart. The management and label, they were like, let wait on that. So we didn't record it for a trailer, our first mini album, and then it came out 2 weeks after we left school, and like 3 days after my last A level, we played Glastonbury, and then it just 2 weeks later we're on Top of the Pops, and um, you know I think it went to number 11 in the charts, but that was like a big summer for big hits. So Supergrass, All Right was out, things like that, and
Bands
yeah,
like
it just kicked
Dodgy,
off from
Shed
there.
7,
Yeah,
Charlatans, Oasis, Blur. It's fucking a
yeah,
wild time.
it was going off, yeah, and it was a glorious summer, the way I remember it. And that's when we went first. Then the rest of the year we went off to America, Japan, Australia for the first time, and like Europe. It was kind of nuts. So yeah, it just kicked off big time. And yeah, there's no way we would have predicted that level. I remember like when we were 17 and putting out the first singles, they were like going to number one in the indie charts. And I was like, I think that was maybe what I thought our level was. And I was like dead psyched with it. But it's kind of crazy to sort of hit the mainstream.
It's amazing looking back at times like that. And even now, when I look at Reading posters and V Festival back then,
Oh
these
yeah.
lineups, like they look
Yeah.
like the dream lineup now. Like kids today
Yeah.
don't realize that's not a poster that you make on like Photoshop of your dream bands. Those were the lineups. And you'd go and see
Yeah.
Beck, and then you'd move and see Radiohead, and then Ash, and then Foo
Yeah.
Fighters on the lower stages, and Biffy
Oh
Clyro.
yeah.
And it was like, oh, they were the
I
golden
know.
days.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, there's some great ones. We were part of the bill. Yeah, some Reading. Like I remember there was us, then Sonic Youth, then the Stone Roses final gig, and then one other year was like us, then Muse, then Foo Fighters. I don't know. Yeah, some
It's
some mad ones.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, you said then about how you went to then, Japan and America, and it was going so quick for you, and you're still very young, and you never can anticipate just how much it blew up in such a short space of time. And I think being in the band, it must be hard to like take a step back and see it because it's happening so quick to you three that you probably can't even digest it because by the time you're looking around you, it's right next week you got to go to Top of the Pops, this week you got to do a festival, this
Yeah.
week. Did you have any chance to take a stand and kind of just reflect and breathe during that kind of 96 to 98 period where it was just insane?
Yeah, not really. Yeah, I remember that first year and a half of, yeah, just, we went on tour around the world the first time, but then we had to like go in and finish the album 1977. We'd sort of put out 3 or 4 singles leading up to it. But well, yeah, we'd recorded 3, like Kung Fu, Go from Mars, Angel Interceptor during the year because we were at school, we couldn't do the full album. And then all of a sudden we had to like do the rest of the album and you know, live up to the rest of it. Make the rest of it as good as those early singles. So there's quite a lot of pressure. And then from that we rolled straight into the tour. So yeah, I do remember like the promotion that we used to do was insane. Like just the schedule, the interviews, the traveling, it, like there was some stuff we'd be doing a video shoot all night long and have to go back to Jules Hall and rehearsal, and we'd have to get helicopters back and forth just to kind of fit it all in. Yeah, and and then it was. I did get quite burned out. I remember like just around the actual 1977, it hit #1 in charts, and I wasn't really having a good time. It's like that was it's really that was one of my big regrets at the time. I was like, this should have been the best moment of my life, but I was like kind of having a bit of a mental breakdown, and so then I was like kind of determined to have another #1 album and enjoy it this time. So luckily we did on our third album, and I made sure I was having a good time then. Yeah, but yeah, it was a lot of pressure. Like we were so young and dabbling in drugs for the first time, things like that. And just burning the candle, just both ends, and severely exhausted as well.
So
But
what's it like when you've
kind of
done
enjoying
that?
it
And
too.
yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
you're putting on a brave face, you're wearing a mask, you must be struggling mentally, and the pressure
yeah,
then to bring out a follow-up album and kind of you want to top it, don't you? You don't want people to be like,
yeah,
"Oh, remember when Ash used to be good?" It's that thing of with Nuclear Sounds, you must have been like, "Oh my God, like we've just hit this incredible milestone with our debut. We now need to try and match it at least or try and top it if better,
yeah,
you know?"
yeah. Oh, it was. I think that was the point where we got a bit of a breather, like trying to write the album. I think there was a bit of a mental block too of like we needed the break, but we didn't get one. We had to go straight in to write it. So we kind of the writing was hard to get into. It dragged out a bit. I hadn't written a song for a year and a half in all the craziness as well, and all of a sudden had to try to get back to the level that I had been, which I was kind of really on fire writing 1977, and I was all super excited about it, about trying new things, being in the studio with a really great producer, Owen Morris, who produced like
An
the
absolutely
Oasis stuff.
amazing producer, yeah.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, and he was a mental guy as well. He still is, I'm sure. And yeah, so but I think we also had this thing like we wanted to change the perception of a band a little bit. We weren't there was this sort of pop element that we somehow managed to be on the cover of like heavy metal magazines like Kerrang, and then the sort of cool indie magazines, NME, Melody Maker, but simultaneously we were in like Sugar magazine and Smash Hits and stuff, which
That's mad, isn't it?
kind of grated the Nirvana fans inside us who were like, what the hell are we doing in this? And some countries we'd go to would be marketed almost a bit like a boy band, a bit like kind of what something like Busted
Yeah.
did a few years later. We were sort of like cute looking punk rocky kind of guys. So we're almost like a bit of a template for that, I think. Yeah, but that like did not sit too well with us. So I think Nuclear Sounds, at the same time we were trying to equal 1977. We were also like trying to do something a bit darker and heavier and a bit more credible, I think. So
Break that
which is a
mold
shame
as
because
well, yeah.
yeah, but I think our strength was mostly our very strong melodic songs. So and I think I was trying to process a bit of a mental breakdown I'd been in around the album hitting #1 and it's just the exhaustion. So it's a bit, there's like half of it's heavy ballads and half of it's us trying to be a bit more like a punk rock band. So yeah, it was a struggle making an album, and it got good reviews when it came out, but it didn't connect the same way. Like the singles weren't the hits, and also like music turned a kind of darker corner. You know, the Britpop party was kind of over at that point, and so
A
yeah,
lot
so that
can
was a bit.
change, can't it, in 2 years?
Yeah, it was crazy how quickly it all burned out and fizzled and changed, and I don't know. Radiohead did it perfectly with OK Computer. You know, they rode through the whole thing in their amazing way.
But there's only
And
one Radiohead. It's just,
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
That's yeah. So that was real. You know, that was impressive.
So was it like a
Um,
conscious choice for you then to get an additional guitarist and get Charlotte in the band to change the dynamic from this trio
yeah,
pretty boy image of a band that could be then in smash hits, and with Free All Angels have that kind of rougher, grittier guitar sound, bit more drive, and the distortion on the guitar sounds a lot more punky, and just, you're
yeah,
not the same polished produced band at that point.
yeah. Like I guess you know that was another thing that sort of was a big change. But I think Charlotte joining was kind of the big thing that helped the longevity of us and got us through to Free All Angels and got us that next level of a comeback success. But yeah, it kind of began with, I guess, when we were recording 1977, we were doing a lot of overdubs, guitar overdubs with Owen Morris, and he was helping us, kind of teaching us how to layer the sound a bit. And I do remember just going, how am I going to recreate this live? And so, and he was a big New Order fan. I remember him saying, oh, I should get a girl, join the band. It's like after Joy Division, they got Gillian into New Order, and he remembered how cool that was. So he was like, you should find a girl guitarist and a female guitarist. And so I kind of stuck in my head. I do remember. And then we toured with Weezer in '96 on their Pinkerton album
My
in the
God, what a
States.
masterpiece of an album that is.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, and that was like a mad tour to be on, because I first heard that in a shopping mall in Japan when we were on tour in Japan. I was like, what the hell is this incredible sounding record? It was in like a Tower Records in a mall that we were playing, and I was like blown away by the album. And then like a few weeks later, they wanted us to come on tour from the States,
Pinch
and
me now.
yeah. But like it was weird because it didn't connect with the fans, or with the mainstream, the way they were coming off the back of such a
Oh yeah, the
massive
Blue
hit with
album was
Buddy
like
Holly and the
bloody,
Blue Album.
yeah.
Yeah, so they
Say
were
It
kind
Ain't
of
So and all that. Christ, yeah, completely
so
different album.
yeah, and I think that was a bit of inspiration when we went to do Nuclear Sounds as well. We were like, oh, we loved the sort of turn that they'd made with that. But on that tour, I loved how that there was two amazing lead guitarists in one band who could like interplay off each other, and so that sort of made me think, oh, that's kind of what, if we were to get another guitarist, that would be the way to do it. And I was living in London in the summer of '97, and Charlotte was the girlfriend of one of the guys I was living with, and she was, I was like, who's this cool 16-year-old girl who's like playing television songs like Marquee Moon and stuff. I was like, wow, she's really good. So yeah, so we asked her to join, and I do remember like we had a lot of young girl fans at the time as well, who were like a bit possessive of their teenage crushes. So I do remember some of the first reactions like, who's this chick joining our band?
Get away from my boys.
From some of the
Yeah.
fans. Yeah, that was a bit of an unexpected reaction, but pretty soon, she had a different way of playing style as well to us. She was kind of, we were like throwing ourselves around like crazy, but she had this kind of aloof, kind of very chill way of playing.
She's like really composed. I saw you play a lot with her on those tours, and
yeah,
she was
so
still
cool.
into it, and you'd watch her, and she was lost in the music, and she just so composed with everything she's playing, but just at the same time just cool as fuck. Like you've just like the Pixies, like Smashing Pumpkins. Just, you've got something cool, and you're not even trying, but you look like it's effortless. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, that's Charlotte. Yeah, and she played barefoot as well sometimes, and like most of the time actually.
Amazing.
Yeah, she was. Yeah, so she was an amazing addition, and she added this whole layer with the harmonies, which I think we didn't dive into it enough on Nuclear Sounds, but on Free All Angel we sort of realized how well our voices blended together, and like when she would harmonize on the choruses and things like that. So, and I loved just having someone that, you know, we could have this guitar interplay with, you know, that we could sort of trade off. And, you know, she's such a brilliant lead player and amazing rhythm player too. So we could kind of trade off each other. So yeah, it was, you know, I loved having her in the band.
I've had many bands on recently, bands like Everclear and Feeder and Incubus that have all been going in the
Yeah.
industry for over 25 years. And what is it now that kind of still makes you want to come out there and still do new music? Because Islands was 2018, and now five
Yeah.
years later, we're just on the verge of, you know, the release of Race the Night. And I wonder what's still in your blood now, and what is it that still makes you want to kind of keep going? Is there the fact of it just doesn't ever leave? Is it the fact that it's just in your system and that's it? Because you've had an amazing career. You've headlined festivals, you've been all around the world, you've had #1 albums. If you were looking at yourself now as a 16-year-old, you'd probably be like, I could retire now. I'm happy. I've done absolutely more than I could dream of. But you're still going out there touring. You've got a
Yeah.
brand new album. Like, what is it that just will never let you like say that's enough now?
I think it's the creative process. Like I love having a new song and being in the room with Mark and Rick, and you know, rehearsal room, just kicking it into shape and feeling us all getting excited about something new. And I don't know, it's always fun having new stuff in the set. I don't like keeping writing new music just brings a lot of really rewarding challenges, you know. And yeah, I don't know if there's this excitement of like when you're making it, like, oh, can't wait for people to hear this. So I don't know, that's never gone. I think those are my favorite moments in the band, you know, when we're sort of trying out new songs. And you don't I don't know, there's some songs just really come to life once you start, you know, you say you've been writing it on the acoustic guitar, and then we start cranking it out in the rehearsal room. So um that's just never gone away. And that's been, you know, since we were 15 years old and before, you know. It's Yeah, so I think that's what still drives us. And you know, and we've done some sort of look back things. Like it was our 30th anniversary last year, and you know, that was like a big thing, like we had to like address, you know,
Yeah.
in a way. But I'm kind of relieved it's over. You know, it's like now we can keep moving forward. And there's been some times we've gone back and played the whole albums in full, which is like, that's quite a fun thing to revisit. But I don't know, this moment right now, you know, we're like, you know, on the verge of releasing a new album. This is what I'm in the band for, really.
Is it really exciting as well, getting this set list ready for the tour that's coming up? It's a hell of a lot of dates. I
Yeah,
didn't realize how big the tour is.
yeah,
And you kind of want to play new songs because you three have got brand new material, and there's nothing better than being in a band and having something new to show people. But
yeah.
every fan wants to hear every classic as well. So is it kind of like, how much of this can we drip into the set list but still keep
Oh,
everyone happy? Because I went to see Placebo a few weeks ago, and
yeah.
they didn't play any of their singles. They just played all new stuff,
Uh,
which is brave and it's
wow.
brilliant. But
Yeah.
everyone leaving the venue was like, "Fuck this band! Like I've paid £50. I
Uh,
wish I could have heard at least a couple of the singles." And I was like,
yeah,
"That's quite ambitious and brave to do that." But I know you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't go to a gig and not play
yeah.
any of your singles. Like,
No, we love to. I don't know. I love those moments because I love the reaction when we play Girl from Mars. You know, I love
yeah,
seeing pints flying and people just. It just like kicks up the energy in the set. So you know, when we play live, that's a big part of it. But yeah, we want to get new songs in there. It's kind of nice. So we've been like the new way of putting out music. You sort of you drip out a single every 2 weeks, and in the build up to the album. In the old days, it used to be you'd keep putting them out long after. But I think by the time the record comes out, people will be, you know, and you know a few of the songs. But yeah, we can't do too much. You know, we'll probably do like 4 or 5. But I do remember we played with Red Hot Chili Peppers in Murrayfield in Scotland, and I'd saw them. I think I saw them in '91 in Belfast on maybe it was Blood Sugar Sex Magic tour. Maybe it was
oh
'92.
wow,
I don't know.
bloody
But I
hell,
was standing. I had a great spot in the front row, right in front of John Frusciante,
oh my lord,
and they were one of my, you know, really one of my favorite bands back then. And but then we played a film. It must have been around, you know, after Californication, all that stuff. And I was kind of like, wow, they're hardly playing any songs from that set I saw back, you know, in '92 or whenever it was. I was like, wow, what a great place in a band to be, you know, to have all these hits and it really connecting with the fans, you know, and you don't even have to play the early stuff. So I was slightly jealous, but of a freedom, you know, to, you know, when you keep having hits like that. But I don't know, maybe we'll get to that point. But there are certain songs, that I see that we've put out in the last 10 years that are starting to rise up and, really connect as much as the old ones. So, um, but I wouldn't do what Brian and the guys did to you. I like to give people what they want as well.
Have you had to rethink the structure of songs or the dynamic of the writing for being in the studio of Race the Night, knowing that you haven't got all these extra musicians on stage and the guitars have got
Yeah.
to be different? Are you kind of going with a conscious mind of not like setting yourself up to fail and being like, how are we going to replicate this
Oh
live?
yeah. Yeah, and I think this album will translate quite live straight away. Like there might, there's definitely layers I add in the studio that I know I'm probably never going to. We're not going to have live, like some backing vocals, or I kind of like sometimes like to do a bit of Queen stuff, where you like
I've got
stack
the
up some
album.
harmonies.
I've heard a
Yeah,
lot. Yeah,
yeah,
it's going to
or
be
stack up the
so
guitars.
much fun to hear live.
Yeah, but I know the songs as a core work when they're stripped down. If you got strip it down to like the main guitar, bass, and drums, vocals, it works too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think this one actually won't be too hard. But I do, yeah, that is something that goes in your mind. Like we sort of got a quite synthy record on the way that we were sort of working on simultaneously to Race the Night, and that might come out next year sometime. And that's definitely going to be a lot more of a headache to like, how the hell do we do this live? But
Is this your Ashes Kid A?
maybe, yeah, I think it kind of is actually.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow,
but
this is fun.
yeah, but a lot more poppy. Like maybe
Yeah.
but it's definitely a very different style. But it's very melodic, poppy,
So you're already
but
working on
synthy.
this as well? Because I was going to say, what's next for you guys? Because usually an album
Yeah,
comes out, you have 2, 3 years to promote it, work on it. But with the way that streaming is now, you can do what you like, can't you?
yeah. I think it's actually I've sort of seeing it. I think it's better to keep putting out music a lot more regularly. So yeah, it had quite a lot of changes in the last few years. It was COVID. I moved from New York to London. We had a baby last year. There's so many things have kind of slowed down this album coming out. So it's kind of meant that we've got the other one is quite. I'm probably like 3/4 of the way through it. Probably need like 2 months of no touring to wrap it up next year, hopefully.
And does it
Famous
feel
last words.
yeah, I was going to say that you set
Yeah,
yourself up to fail there, but
yeah,
does the tour, and I say this with full respect, require a different way of life now because you're a father, because you want to spend time with your loved ones? It's not going out partying, drinking, doing drugs, living rock and roll. Do you kind
yeah.
of schedule it so you have a bit more time off and a better work-life balance? And I know it sounds ridiculous, but to play 17, 18 songs over a 2-hour set, you're not the 20-year-old that's got that strength and,
Yeah.
fitness now. I can imagine it being a bit more of a, right, lads, let's take it easy tonight. We've got another one
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, anytime we try to put less songs in the set, Mark always insists on getting more. He just tries to squeeze them
Just
out.
two
Yeah, he
more.
won't
Go on.
he won't let us. Yeah, he's like the slave driver of the band. So yeah, but I don't know. I think there's some inbuilt stamina that we've got from just all those years of touring. Like even if we're kind of destroyed, we can't. We can't. But yeah, I don't know. Schedule wise, we try not to overdo it too much these days. I mean, Mark and Rick have been parents for like a lot longer. They've been, 12 years or so.
Yeah,
And so we already slowed down a bit our touring compared to how we used to. Like the first 10 years of the band were just absolutely crazy, the amount of
insane.
dates
Yeah.
we get every year. But yeah, it's not too bad. I don't know. We've had a decent break from it, so I'm looking forward to that
You got that
momentum you
itch
get
to go
from
back out
playing.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, because when you play a lot, you get into a great rhythm, and especially when you're playing the new songs, they get better and better each night. So you know, now Girl from Mars, maybe like I don't think we're gonna ever improve how we do it. It's probably quite set how we do it, but
Yeah.
it's fun when you got the new stuff. You shape it a bit over the gigs.
That's awesome. And
Yeah.
my final question for you today is, and I do this with every guest that comes on the podcast, and I put you on the spot, but anyone that's been on gets to choose the final song that's played. So after our interview today is all edited and ready for the world to listen to, you get to choose the last song, and it can be by any band, by anyone in the world, any piece of music, but it's played after our interview. So I am putting you on the spot, but when I asked the question, what was the song that came to your heart before any other?
Oh, right. Okay. I don't know why, but I'm just in a Beach Boys mood right now, and
Fucking love the Beach Boys.
yeah, And this is not one of their biggest hits, but there's a song called "This Whole World," and it's just an amazing showcase of Brian Wilson's melodic genius, and in quite a brief song as well. I think, I don't know, less than 2 minutes maybe, but yeah, it's just full of beautiful harmonies, and yeah, and quite upbeat too. So good vibes to
That's a real
bid you adieu.
nice one to end on. And
Yeah.
Pet Sounds, genuinely, since I was a kid and my parents bought their first CD player, it was the first album they bought on CD. There's not
Yeah.
one week, and I'm not lying here, there's not one week that goes by that I don't listen to that album. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter where I am, I put it on, and I've never heard harmonies or a song like God Only Knows ever
Yeah.
replicated
That's
by
right.
anybody. It just does something
Yeah.
for me that's just timeless. I wish I got to see it live.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's I think I did actually. I was lucky in New York, but yeah, it was quite an amazing experience. But what an album. Yeah. That is,
Unbelievable.
yeah.
What an ending. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Tim, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. You've heard I've been a fan of your band since I was literally at secondary school, and it's a dream for you to be on the show. I'm a massive, massive fan, and I can't wait for people to hear the album. I've been lucky enough to get the preview, and I can't wait to come see you and hopefully grab a beer with you.
Yeah, can't wait. Awesome.
Oh yeah, she was taking me over. And oh yeah, it was the start of the summer.
So there it is. There's my interview with me and Tim Wheeler from the incredible band Ash. Truly a dream guest for me, and at one point nearly made episode 300, but that is only literally days away. But I can't thank Tim enough for giving me the time to come on the podcast and make all my dreams come true. It sounds cheesy, but I say it, and I'm always very honest and very open on this podcast. If I get a guest that I'm a bit of a fanboy of, in a cool way and not a stalker way, I will say it. Ash are a band that meant the absolute world to me, and are the reason I picked up a guitar. They're the reason I got in a band. They're so good and had such an impact on my life, so it feels so good to know that now I can add them to the Mark and Me catalogue. If you've enjoyed today's episode, all I ask in return, because these episodes will always remain free, is just share it. Mark and Me is a one-man team, and sometimes I do truly believe that people think I have an agent, a manager, a booking team, a social media team. I don't have an editor, I don't have a publisher, it's literally just me. And that's why I have to work so hard on relying on you guys out there to hit that retweet button, the share button, because then you know how big Ash are. If you share this on Facebook, one of your friends who grew up might love Ash just as much as us, and then they go and check out the podcast, they love this interview, and then stick around for the long run. With nearly 300 episodes available, there's surely something for everyone, so if you can hit that share button, please do. Also, if you want to go that extra mile, I do have a Patreon account. I've lost a few people recently, and I understand with the cost of living it's not easy, but if you can sign up on there for as little as £2 a month, you're guaranteed at least 2 episodes every week. You get a welcome pack with stickers, with a limited edition badge that's nearly run out now. You get exclusive episodes called The Lost Tapes, which are for only people on Patreon, and you get newsletters and so much more. So please, if you can afford it, there's a link on markandme.com. It really goes a long way. I'll be back in only a few days' time, and I can't believe I'm saying this out loud right now, with episode 300 of Mark and Me. I am not even going to start giving you any clues yet about who the guest is, but I can't believe this has happened. It's taken the whole time, nearly 7 years of doing Mark and Me to make it happen, but it's finally happened, and it really is my number one dream guest. I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to say no more. Now, until then, look after yourself. Listen to the brand new album by Ash called Race the Night, and we'll meet back in a few days' time with the big 300. I'll speak to you all then.
I'm thinking about this whole